Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Mavani. I hope you all are doing good, my dear friends. Today is 4th March 2020. Day is Wednesday. On our table, we have many important topics. The first one and the most important one is the legacy of childhood trauma. This article is talking about physiological as well as psychological impact of domestic violence on a child. It's a very important topic because you can find essay, not directly, but directly or indirectly. You can find an essay on this topic like violence and women. You can find a question on issues faced by women in our country. It could be your GS question. I'm not saying directly this question, but questions can be formed on this topic. And you find this type of questions every year. So this is one of the main reasons why this particular topic is one of the most important article of the day. We are going to talk about it in detail, but before that, I would like to introduce all of you to our pen drive and tablet courses, which are designed by the best faculties of our country. As you can see on your screen, we have covered various different competitive exams, and the good news is that at present, big holy sale is going on. This is going to last till 11th March, and till 11th March, you will get 70% discount on all our pen drive and tablet courses. To find out more about it, do check out StudyIQ.com. If you have any question, queries, doubts regarding it, you can give us a call on the numbers that you can see on your screen. Dear friends, it's a request that please make sure that you share this lecture with other students. You can download the PDF of today's lecture from these two sources here. Please hit the like button if you have learned something from today's discussion, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So this article starts with a hypothetical story of a person called Rakesh. Rakesh is said to be a monster. He could not handle conflicts at home and often resorted to yelling to get his point across. He beats his children as well. He is physical with his partner, and the question is, where did Rakesh learn to be the man he is now, or he was? The root is his childhood, and Rakesh's story is all too frequent in our country. As per WHO, that is World Health Organization, 1 in 3 women faces intimate physical violence, and this is a very sad thing. You can find question on this thing, and you should have this sort of facts in your fingertips. You can throw these examples when you write answers, or when you practice answer writing. You should have this sort of examples. I'm not saying that you should fill up your answers with each and every answer should have this sort of. Don't get confused here. What I'm saying is, whenever it is possible, you should use this sort of facts. And of course, if you can quote facts, like here, you have this reference of WHO, that is World Health Organization. So you can use this sort of lines, and this will add more weight. It will add that fact that is required in answer writing. So each successive government of our country, as well as around the world as well, we find that there are various different laws, legal procedures, judicial recourses. There are so many things that are available to protect women, but most of the laws in our country as well as around the world has left children unprotected and exposed. Now, witnessing violence is traumatic for a small child. A child, who has seen his or her mother being slapped, and then this child will learn to create cover-up stories of frequent injuries that appears on his or her mother's body, and then he or she will learn to speak lies, and then that thing will become a very normal thing. Violence will become a sort of a new normal for that particular child, and when that child will grow up, he will use the same thing with his spouse and children, because this is something that he has seen and learned from his father. Now, as per research, right, there are recorded physiological effect of this violence. Results of CT scans has indicated that a child that has gone through this sort of or a child that has witnessed this sort of thing has a very, or the corpus callosum area of the brain, as well as hippocampus. Hippocampus is a region that is associated with reading emotions. It is associated with navigation, right? The place that we remember, or the locations of various different streets of our city, we can identify it easily. All this works because of hippocampus. Hippocampus is not just about navigation, but it is also about reading emotions. Like someone enters the room from within a second, in a fraction of a second, you can say that that person is happy or sad, or something is right or wrong with that person just by looking at his or her face. So all these things are part of hippocampus, and corpus callosum as well plays a very important role in learning and all these things. So those children who have witnessed this sort of violence, their learning, cognitive abilities, emotional regulation, etc. gets affected negatively. And there is this risk of intergenerational transmission as well. As per Dr. Byron Igiland, average intergenerational transmission rate is 40%. Now, what is intergenerational transmission? Basically, if I have seen or witnessed something in my childhood, then I am going to do the same thing with my spouse as well, with my kids, so it becomes a new normal for the next generation. Then it goes on and on. So out of, let's say, 100 persons who were abused as children, 40 transmit this violence to the next generation. And this is a very sad thing. I have observed this thing as well. It's about one of my childhood friend. His father, his late father, used to beat my friend as well as his siblings very badly. We were very young, like 7-8 years old. And I used to see, his basically his cheek or his mouth used to be having these scars of beatings. And what I find now is that the childhood friend, I'm not in regular contact with him, but I sometimes get news regarding him that he is an alcoholic. He consumes 1 bottle of alcohol on a regular basis. And he was a very brilliant, bright child, but I think I'm not scientifically sure, but I think that this is because of that childhood beating that he has suffered from. So somewhere, emotions are not healed. Somewhere those physical scars, they are healed, but those psychological scars are still there. And there are so many programs on this thing. If you go on TED Talk platform, if you see Mind Valley platform, there are so many channels on YouTube. They talk about this sort of topics, not just this, but they talk about so many topics. And this domestic violence is again a very painful thing, and this is very common as well. And it's a shame that we don't talk about this sort of things, right? Because we feel many times afraid, we feel embarrassed about this sort of thing, but they should come out. The more it will come out, the more we can tackle this thing. So it is important to note that not all victims of domestic violence become aggressor. This is something that we have to understand here. It's not that if someone has gone through this sort of torture in his or her childhood, that means that the person will become a criminal. No. We must not victimize young survivors of violence. Violence becomes an acceptable means to deal with conflict. This happens with many people, but not all of them. So what we need is we need to create this environment, a culture where tender, loving care is given to all these victims. Their psychological health. We need to look after that. And as a 2016 report by U.S. Children's Bureau explains, violence and abuse produce trauma symptoms, which when left unresolved, increase the likelihood that individual will engage in violent behavior as an adult. And if you trace the root of all those heinous crimes, many a time or most of the time, we find that these criminals, they have this sort of issues. Something is not right with their upbringing. So when it comes to solving this problems against women in our country, or this violence, or this rapes and murders and other things. So, of course, we need proper laws, we need better policing, we need street lights, we need safety, and all these things are important, of course, no doubt. But at the same time, we have to catch this thing from its very root cause. Domestic violence may look a thing that is, of course, it is not acceptable, but means I was watching a trailer. I think a film is also coming, Thappad or something, and it's about that case of one slap. Now, one slap, we take it, it's just a one slap, but it's not one slap. It is a seed, and it can, it can become a big jungle or big forest from small seed. So we should tackle it, and particularly for victims, we should have proper care system. India has become serious about mental health, beginning with the Mental Health Care Act 2017, but it needs to do more. We need to have better mental health practitioners in terms of quality as well as quantity. We need to have proper network where we can support people. If someone is victim, then he or she should not feel that he or she is alone. They can always go to a place where they will be looked after very well. And sadly, we don't have this sort of setup in our country because we have so many problems. But this sort of problems as well are very serious in nature. And if you go through our old movies, you find that a person who is, a hero or heroine, basically mostly heroes, right? The male protagonist, that person goes through all those pain and everything, and then he becomes a criminal, and then something, falls in love, and then he finds the meaning of life and this sort of thing. So we always find something is not right with his upbringing. Something has gone wrong. So we have to create an environment where something goes wrong with someone, then there is a system that will look after that person. And we can also rope in religious groups as well, churches, temples, mosques, and all those priests and sheikhs. They can play a very active role. They can educate families about this balance between male and female, that violence is definitely not acceptable at all in any form, right? May it be verbal or emotional, or may it be physical violence. So I'm sure we have talked about so many things, and I want you guys to think about it. It's a very important topic. As I told you, you can find an essay or GS question on this thing, or even in your interview as well. You could be asked to express your opinion on domestic violence or crimes and how we can deal with it. So, of course, most of the students, right, well-educated mind will talk about proper laws, policing, judiciary system, and all these things are logical and right as well. We need them. But we have to go through to that root cause as well. We have to solve this soft issue too. Without it, we cannot 100% stop this sort of crimes against women, particularly. Moving on to next items. This one is growing numbers. It's about coronavirus. Another one is about coronavirus. So let's start with this editorial. On Monday and Tuesday, India reported 3 more cases. Total number has clocked to 6. 3 new cases, one in Delhi, another one in Hyderabad, and the third one in Jaipur. Now, 2 new cases were Indians who had arrived from, one from Italy and the another one from Dubai. Now, Italy and Dubai, or Italy and UAE, they have reported local transmission. So what local transmission is all about? See, so far all those cases that we have observed, like people who were living in Wuhan, this Kerala cases, they came from Wuhan to India and they were having this coronavirus, and 2 of them, they have left India as well. They have left for UAE, I think, if I'm not wrong. But definitely 2 of them have left. And this is a sad thing, like they have escaped this observation system. So that's a big question and a warning sign. But anyway, so far we have not witnessed or seen this local transmission. Local transmission is like one person carrying this virus, then he or she will affect someone else or infect someone else, and then those infected will infect. So this whole chain reaction has not started in our country, and it's a good thing. Now, let's quickly go through symptoms. Unknown incubation period, fever, difficult breathing, impaired liver and kidney function, kidney failure, severe cough, pneumonia. All these are signs of this coronavirus. I'm not trying to create panic, but basically trying to educate you guys, right? You should be a bit careful with coronavirus. If you are living in an area which is mentioned here, then you should be a bit extra careful. If possible, carry a mask or wear a mask. If not necessary, then avoid going into public places for time being, right? And Health Ministry has said that 6 people in Agra who had come in contact with COVID-19 index case in Delhi have been detected with high viral load and kept in isolation. Their samples have been sent to Pune-based this virology, National Institute of Virology, and if this 6 people, if one of them is, if one of them as well, or if he or she is affected with this, or if we find this confirmed case, then this will be the starting of local transmission of SARS-CoV-2 in our country. Now, the good thing is that our system is capable enough that we have traced as well as tested people who have come in contact with this index case. So that's a positive thing. But when it comes to, we are going to talk about this one as well. This article is talking about few things that we need, few loopholes that we have in our system. But the good thing is that infected people, they do not show. The good thing is that in a country that is having population of 1.25 or 1.3 billion, we have just 6 cases, which is not bad, and we are a neighboring country of China, and then as well cases are very low. So that's a good news. The bad thing, or the thing that we should be worried about, is that infected people do not show symptoms during the incubation period. So many people are coming from outside into our country, and during this airport and seaport screening, we find them clean, but maybe after a few days they may show some sort of signs of coronavirus. So we should have this system, and people should be made aware about this thing, that after a few days, if they are coming from abroad or in an area which was or is affected with this coronavirus, then they should go to the nearest medical facility, and they should go through this thorough checking. So this is a thing that is very important. Now, second one, a COVID-19 response that is quick, off the blocks. This one is talking about the steps that India should take. We should not take it lightly. Things are in our favor at present, but if we don't utilize this time, then things may go out of our hand. Dr. Nancy Massonia, she is US CDC, and about USA, she says that it's not so much a question of if this or this means coronavirus will happen anymore, but rather more a question of exactly when this will happen and how many people in this country will have severe illness. India needs to be ready to mount a coordinated, coherent and sustained response. It's like the game of cricket. When you have lost, let's say, 9 wickets, and if you have to make 200 runs or 150 plus run, then you are in a very serious situation, Means the chances are, or the odds are against you. But if you have not lost any wicket, you have many overs as well, then that means you have a very positive chance, you have an upper hand as well. So we are in this upper hand situation. Things are not that bad in our country, and we have experience in dealing with Nipah and swine flu. So we should not waste our time. We should improve our health system. At present, our health system is very fragile. We don't have that many resources in our country, right? And it's not just the government that can deal with it. We need the helping hand of private sector, right? We need to rope in all those systems that we can or we have, like police, fire, transportation, tourism, food suppliers, other sectors. They all need to come on board on one page. We can utilize social media to create awareness and fight fake news. And remember what happened during Ebola. People in Africa, those countries affected with Ebola, they changed their social system. Rather than having a handshake or a hug, they changed this gesture as well, and we need to do the same thing in our country for time being. We should get rid of that handshake thing. We should we have this namaste, and we should use namaste rather than touching someone. We should stay particularly in public places. And sad thing about our country is this is spitting thing. People chewing tobacco and other pan masala and things, and they are spitting here and there. Then that's a very, very disgusting thing that we have in our country. So we need to get rid of that bad habit too. This is the right time that we should work on it. Then personal hygiene, coughing and sneezing, we should carry handkerchief with us, and these are some basic things. But sadly, you find many times, I'm sure, I feel very, very angry when I see someone, when you are in a public place, maybe in a theater or some other place where people are sneezing and they are not using their handkerchief. They are, so it's a very sad and bad thing. But awareness, constantly hammering people about this thing is very important. And trust in government, its institutions, and fraternity among fellow citizens form the bulkwear of effective response. And we need to create this thing. We don't have this thing. If we calculate, or this is called a simple back of the envelope calculation, a rough calculation basically about our healthcare resources, if we do it, then as well we find that we don't have adequate ambulance or those centers, right? All these things we have to do it. If any area gets affected, then all those setup will be ad hoc setup, right? And we have time now. We started our discussion with this thing about the game of cricket, so we have wickets as well as overs. So we should deploy all those resources and things. This is the right time. And it's not about just coronavirus. It's also about preparing a system for future. The way climate change is going on, the way things are going on. A few days ago, I was talking about this locust swarms, and how it all started. And because of this climate change, those areas, those empty quarter of Saudi Arabia and UAE, those desert region where they don't have any rainfall for years, but because of this cyclone they had this rainfall, and because of this thing, this locust, they are generally solitary insects. Now they are flying in swarms. So all these things are taking place because of this climate change, and in future we may find more this sort of diseases. So this is the right time to prepare our system. Moving on to next item, it's about a blow against social justice. It's about a recent verdict of a 2-judge Supreme Court bench on reservation and scheduled caste and scheduled tribes promotion. Now, this 2-judge bench has said that reservation in promotion, in job promotion, is not a fundamental right. So this verdict has raised 4 constitutional questions: whether reservation in promotions is a fundamental right or not, whether a court can direct the state to provide reservations, whether quantifiable data for inadequate representation is a must for giving a reservation in promotions, and whether it is the obligation of the state to give a reservation. Now, first of all, we have to understand this thing, that this particular verdict or this case has multiple constitutional issues, so we need a larger bench for it. Remember back in 2018 when this creamy layer was removed from reservation. At that point of time, 5-judge Constitution bench took a decision, not a small bench. So it is a moral responsibility of the union government to appeal this case. Then we have this constitution. If we go through part 3 of our constitution under fundamental right, we find article 16.4 and 16.4a, which empowers the state to provide reservation for SCs and STs. It is part of this equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. We find right to equality in our preamble as well, so it is part of our constitution. One thing that we have to understand is that this article 16.2 and 16.4 are neither contradictory. In fact, they are complementary. They support these 2 articles, right? They support each other. And we find this debate or this fissure in our society that There are people in general category, there are people in SC and ST category. They are against each other in this argument. A few people of general category, they blame SC/STs that they are getting all the benefits and their kids are not getting this benefit of reservation. SC/STs, few people say that earlier on, if you go back in the history, then this general category people, you have harassed us and our social status is what because of you guys and things like that. So we find this sort of argument, isn't it? And I'm not saying who is right here, who is wrong here, but the most important thing that we have to understand is that a reservation is not forever, right? We have to work for a society where everyone becomes equal, where we don't need this sort of system at all. This should be our goal, isn't it? We don't want to see this thing to carry on forever. I'm not saying to stop it right now. What I'm saying is, first of all, we have to create this society. And when I say we, of course, we have laws, we have our constitution, we have government is working for it, state governments are working for it, and all these things are important, of course, no doubt about it. But this is my personal opinion that on individual level, we have to solve this question. When I say individual level, we have to go to the root of this thing. Like, why do we have reservation? What is my opinion on this thing? Whether people should get reservation or not. If they should get, then it should be based just on caste, or it should be based on economical condition as well, or it should be both, or any one of this thing, right? Can we have some customized system for it, like a person of general category but living in a very poor condition, a family that belongs to general category but in a very poor condition? Should that family be allowed to get reservation? A family, let's say a Dalit family, both parents are, let's say, a class 1 officer, so their kids, they should get this reservation or not, and this sort of questions, right? We have to ask these questions, and of course there are resources, books, and there are so many things we can refer them, but we have to have our own opinion. And when I say we, I mean to say you must have your own opinion, because your worldview will matter, your own worldview, and you have to find this worldview. It is somewhere in you, but for that you have to do a little bit of digging, and I'm sure you will do it. And it is important because you have to write answer, isn't it? It's not just about a fancy answer, it's also about your future work, because you are going to be part of this whole chain, or this civil services, which is of course a steel frame of our country. Now, denying application of reservation in promotions has kept SCs and ST largely confined to lower cadre jobs. That's what this article says, and this article also provides a figure that even after 70 years of SC/ST reservations, their representation is as low as 3% only. So what we need proper data as well, right? This data should be presented. For that, we have to collect this data. Now, the question is also that courts, right? So Supreme Court or High Court has this power to order states to do or to not do something. Now, the thing is, if we go through Article 142, we find that Supreme Court has extraordinary powers. It can anything or any matter that comes in front of or is pending before it, Supreme Court has this power to provide or deliver a complete justice, right, on it. So if Supreme Court finds that something is not right, then Supreme Court can take it. Supreme Court can order the state to do the needful. Indra Swaini versus Union of India case, a 50% cap was breached, but quantifiable data was provided. For that, we have to create this caste-based census. Last time it was collected back in 1935 as per this article, and we have not collected this data because no political party would like to take this risk. But now I think Supreme Court should order this thing, and we should collect this data on caste-based census should take place so that we can get a proper, accurate picture of what's going on in our country at present, and based on that we can take some right decisions. So at the end of the day, we can say that yes, if possible, then not if possible, but we should definitely have a larger Supreme Court bench. We should collect more proper data, and then we should form a formulate policy. I would say we should have a semi-reservation, like reservations provided to certain categories is important, but at the same time, we should have some sort of customization as well. Uh, you know. So let's hope that we all, as a country, will find something, a proper solution for it. And the last one is about the demolition of reason. Very interesting article. It's about this logic and reason and rationality. Generally, we claim that man is, or human being is, a rational animal. But if we see what's going on in our world, right, then we find that it's not always right. We are not always rational, right? We nowadays we find, when it comes to rationality, when it comes to conversations, we find that discussions are disrupted, facts are manipulated, and it's all about self-interest and power. And a writer from Turkey, Miss Temel Kurhan, she says that having a discussion with the supporter of Erdogan is like making a milkshake without the lid on. And it's not just about Turkey, it's something that we find in our country as well. Most of the political debates are about BJP and Congress only. Now the big question is our country divided into only these two parties, or that's the only thing that we have in our country? Of course not. These two parties are a small part of our country. They are not everything, you know. And politics is not just about BJP and Congress. It's bigger than that. And nowadays what we find is like BJP is, Congress. I'm not saying Congress is 100% clean, and I'm also not saying that BJP is 100% clean. I'm just presenting one scenario in front of you, that what we find is that whenever Congress is asking or saying something about riots or about something that is not right, then BJP people will say that what happened under your regime. But it's not about that. It's like a person who has committed a theft 20-30 years ago. Now the same person, someone steals something from that person, and this person goes to police station, and the policeman says that you have done the same thing in your life 20-30 years ago. So what justice means? You have no right to lodge a complaint. This is not right, isn't it? So same thing. If he means, I'm not saying that BJP is doing wrong or Congress is right, but basically in arguments as well, in discussions as well, we cannot we have to find ways through which we can improve things that are going on. If we are having any problem in our society or country, then we have to find solutions rather than this blame game. And there is also a new trend. Everything is compared with Pakistan, that you are getting this here. If you go to Pakistan, you don't get that. Like, if we want to compare ourselves, I personally believe then we should compare with the best nations, right? With Sweden, with Norwegian countries, with New Zealand, and there are so many other countries. Like, when it comes to equality, when it comes to clean air, when it comes to so many things, then we should compare ourselves with a country that is ahead of us. This will lead us to a right path rather than comparing every single thing with Pakistan. This is not going to help us, and it's not going to help Pakistan as well. Like, blaming Pakistan all the time, it's not going to help India. It's not going to help Pakistan. So it's better that we add rationality in our discussion and thinking in our public life, and particularly to all those people who are doing this thing on television. We find it on regular basis. These are your news items, dear friends. So today we have talked about so many topics, of course, and I will see you with daily financial news analysis. I have two questions for you. Question number one is, what was GST collection for the month of February 2020? And the other question is, what is Blue Dot Network? What is Blue Dot Network? Just give me a brief answer about Blue Dot Network in the comment section. And please share this lecture with other students. Hit the like button if you have learned something from today's discussion. I'll see you soon. Till then, enjoy your studies. God bless you all. Thank you very much for your love and support. Jai Hind.